Hey, welcome to another session in Cal's Barn. Today I'm going to be talking about a tool again instead of work I'm doing on the car. I got a lot of videos about work that I've done on the car, but I got to put multiple videos together, do a bunch of editing, and I just haven't taken the time to do that yet. So again, today I'm going to be talking about a tool. And this time I'm going to be talking about the pipe anvil that I made. It's different than I think any pipe anvil you'll see anywhere else. Before anybody gets the wrong idea, I'm not saying this is the way you should build a pipe anvil. My point of this video is basically two things. One, here's what I did and a few things I learned doing it. And two, and probably most important, is you don't always need to do things the normal way. You can take whatever you have laying around and make a tool that does your job for you. That's good enough. I had the PVC pipe laying around. I used it. It worked. It started before I had read about pipe anvils or listened to any YouTubes about pipe anvils. And I was working on the front fender, making a patch panel for the rust hole that's behind the wheel down low. You can buy a patch panel for it, but a number of the places where you can buy it say use it as a last resort. So I decided to make my own patch panel. To do that, I needed a gentle curve, and anything I had to try to put that curve in it was putting a sharper bend. I was ending up with a series of sharp bends, and I didn't like that. So I thought, well, all right. I found some old pipe that I had laying around. I built my own house, so I had PVC pipe laying around. And I just took a few pieces that were wide enough and drilled some holes in them, put some 5/8 all thread in there so that I could change the gap between them. Like I said, I'd never seen anything about a pipe anvil, so I just assumed I'd want to be able to have a gap between them, and I kind of like that. There's been times where it's been useful. Anyways, I made it that size partly so that it would fit on my bench here, my welding table, and then the arms that were on here, the all thread, would sit on there, and I could bend with push on it with my hands here, and the all thread would keep this thing from moving around. That worked. I got my panels made. Then I needed a bigger piece. Working on the back of the car behind the rear wheel, I had to make a patch panel for that, and this patch panel is 22 inches long, so it wouldn't fit obviously in there. So that was useless. So I had to widen my pipe anvil. And I decided to just go ahead and modify the one I had rather than starting from scratch. Again, I still had some PVC pipe left around, and that worked well enough originally that I thought, I think it'll work at a bigger width. And it did. This is proof. This is 18 gauge, 22 inches wide, and I had no problem bending that with PVC pipe. Let me pull my pipe anvil out here and we'll show you what I did. So this is what I started with, more or less, at a narrower size so it fit on here. And I had the all thread here with a nut here, and it's two nuts holding it to this piece of angle iron. And then this is just bed rail. This is almost all scrap. This is bed rail, this is bed rail. You can see how rusty these feet are. The only thing that I had to buy was a 3/4 inch square tube. And actually this was a piece that I had left over that was 3 feet long, and I just cut it in half and used that. But let me get to that in a bit. I forgot to mention, I got a 1-inch piece down here, and if I had to do it again, I don't think I'd do that. Maybe 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, but 1.5 inches I had before. That would be okay. 1 inch is a little bit too small, I think, in my opinion. The reason I ended up with that is that when I widened it, the only piece I had was a piece of Schedule 80 1-inch from a well pipe that I had pulled out, and it wasn't strong enough by itself, so I put a wooden dowel in it. A 1-inch dowel fit right in the center of it, right through the middle. And I tried that, and that also wasn't strong enough. So I went to the local metal supplier, and we got an Alro, actually I got two Alro metal outlets not too far from me. And I found some remnant 1-inch pipe. It wasn't long enough to make this out of one piece, so I bought two pieces, held them in a piece of angle iron and welded them together so they're nice and straight. And put that in there. That's plenty strong, but it's kind of a tight radius for most things you'd bend, I think. So like I said, I'd probably go with 1.5 inches if I had to do it again. On the other hand, they probably didn't have 1.5 inch remnants around, but they had the 1-inch remnants. So that's what I used. It works. You just have to be a little more careful with it. This arm here I used thinking that I could push on the sheet metal evenly with this rather than pushing it on with my hands. And it's sort of useful, but it doesn't really do the job. What I found is that even with that, the outer edges bend more, get more of a permanent bend than the center. So I still had to go in the center by hand and even it out. So do I need that? Probably not. I left it on because I had it in the original. Like I said, I took the bed rail here, welded a piece on the end, on both ends, and put a piece of 3/8 rod in here, just plain 3/8 rod, threaded the ends so that I could put some nuts on there. So that's all this hinge is just a piece of 3/8 rod. You know, drill a hole through this 3/4 inch square tubing, put a couple nuts on the end to hold it in place. That's it. And I guess I had to modify, you know, I had to weld this up. Again, I took a piece of the angle iron, cut it off, just flipped it over, welded it on here so that I had top and bottom here, and I could put the set screw in to hold it in place. That way it's adjustable. One thing I found when drilling the holes, both for this and for the pipes, is definitely go oversize. Otherwise, it's way too tight. It binds up way too easily. You can see I'm getting about that much play right now. If I made it any tighter than that, it's really hard to move things around. Same thing on these. What these do though is because I can adjust it with a nut down here, I can end up with a gap, or with a gap between the pipes, and I can bend something around the pipe and get a fairly sharp bend around the pipe and get a more gentle bend beyond that because of the gap between them. I've used that to my advantage a few times. Change the width of the gap between it, and you can kind of change how much that transition is from the sharp bend around the pipe to the smoother bend beyond that. It's still not easy. You got to play with it a little bit, but I think it was helpful. When I first widened this, the problem I had was, of course, it wouldn't fit on the table, so I tried it on the floor, but you're kind of limited when you try it on the floor because this is, well, one side of this is sitting right on the floor. You can't have a piece of sheet metal sticking out both ends. So if I had to have it sticking out, then I had to brace it up on something else, and that was a pain. But I didn't want to put legs on this. My problem here is storage. I don't have a lot of room in this barn, which is why I don't have a drill press or bandsaw, things like that. So what I finally figured out was 3/4 inch square tube fits beautifully over this 5/8 all thread. So I simply took some old scrap. You can see how rusty this is. It's been sitting out in the yard for 35, 40 years. And cut a couple pieces of that off, welded on the 3/4 inch square tube. But one of the reasons I left this like this, so that I can take these feet off of it, is I don't have much room for storage. So I could just turn them sideways and store it that way, but I'd probably take them, then it just increases the length. I can take them off easily. Come on. Well, I said easily. There we go. And now I can store that up against a wall anywhere and store those next to it, and they're easy to put back on. Another thing I forgot to mention is, in order to get the height I wanted, I drilled a 1/4 inch hole through the 3/4 inch square tube in order to get the height I wanted. And I made about a 6-inch engagement of the 5/8 threaded rod into the 3/4 inch square tube for stiffness. But the wiggling that you see here isn't from that. It's actually because the floor is not flat and my feet need to be either bent or add a little foot on each end so that it doesn't wiggle around, or just leave it as is because it really doesn't affect the function at all. Another nice thing with the PVC is, of course, it's lighter weight when I'm moving it around. Minor issue, but it's kind of nice. As far as the overall length, if I had to make it long enough to make a whole door panel, and I think on that car it requires about 53 inches to include the lips to fold over on each end. I'm not sure if PVC would be good enough. I think it might be. At 3 feet, that doesn't move at all. So 53 inches, about what, 4.5 feet? It might work just fine. At least the 4-inch and the 3-inch. 2.5 inch might work on this, but I don't think 2.5 would work on that at all. So if anybody gives it a try, leave a note in the comments, because I think it would work, but I can't be certain. So there you go. Another oddball tool from Kel's barn, but it does the job. Didn't cost me much either. Well, thanks for watching. Think about hitting that like button and subscribing if you haven't already. And hopefully in the next few days or week or two, I'll get around to editing some of those videos on actual work on the car. Show you what I'm doing there. Most of it's been on the trunk so far.